That's amazing.
Are you guys seeing the slides okay?
There is something.
Sorry?
There's something blocking.
Yeah, seems like it, eh? All set. Thank you, Danny, for your tips. So shall we start the recording now? So good evening. Thank you very much for taking the time to attend the presentation. Sorry for the hiccup earlier on, and a big thank you for Dr. Martha Lee for organizing this Sugar and Spice Festival, and the wonderful tech team behind Rakshita, and Elmer working behind the scene for me, as well as my lovely husband. And this presentation will be recorded. My screen will be pinned. And when you ask questions, your voice will be pinned in the chat box if you prefer. So without any further delay, let's start. And my name is Tricia Pang, and I'm a professional certified coach with a special interest in coaching women with cancer. And my sharing tonight is on the topic of sex change. So a lot of people is like, oh, is it interesting? Is it from man to woman? Not that kind of gender change, but it's more on, sexuality and intimacy are very important part of our well-being. So sexuality is part of how we experience physical and emotional closeness and how we develop and maintain our intimate relationships. So however, it can change when we face with health and physical transitions in life. So I hope that through this presentation, you can have a better understanding on various health and physical transitions and find practical ways to adapt to any physical, mental, or emotional changes that you or your partner might experience and discover new ways to enjoy intimacy. Next, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. Tech support, yes, thank you. So some fun facts on the human sexual development. So between the birth and 18 months, children already discover their genitals and they begin to touch themselves for pleasure. Yes, they do masturbate, but children at this age, they are not masturbating like us, for orgasm. And also another fun fact is that many teens and preteens are actually very dissatisfied with their weight and body shape. And a poor body image can inhibit poor healthy sexual relationship. And peer pressures is really, really big for especially teenage girls. And actually sex is really unenjoyable for them. And the teens are often aware that they are actually not emotionally ready for the behavior they're trying out. So when is it time that they start making sense of everything? Around 17 or 18 years onwards. That's when the sex starts having some emotional meaning and connection for them. As for sexual peak, well, let's just say that men and women of all ages have exciting and satisfying sex life. So as you can see, we have been changing ever since we were born. Next slide, please. Next slide. Thank you. And when we were first hit by the COVID pandemic, can we have the next slide, please? Thank you. So when we were first hit by the COVID pandemic, we experienced a roller coaster of emotions. So we had to adapt to the new reality really fast. And we had to learn how to interact through social distancing or wearing a mask. And this all became our new normal. And it's the same when we are faced with a new transition, a new health challenge. So how can we embark on a journey of constant learning, development, and self-change? Okay, next slide. Thank you. So if change is normal, then when is it a problem? There's no really a normal level of sexual response because it's different for everyone. You may find that what is normal for one stage of your life changes to another stage. For example, it's common for an exhausted mother of a baby to have later interest in sex, and it's common for both men and women to have lower sex drive as they age. So I will illustrate using my own personal sexual experience problems during my cancer treatment. Next, please. So a picture tells 1,000 words, doesn't it? Chemotherapy and hormonal therapy pretty much zapped away the cancer as well as my sex drive. I was nothing new normal about being hairless. I was like the first cat there, including no eyebrows, no eyelashes, pubic hair, nothing, zilt, zapped it all out. I only have 1.5 breasts and only 1 nipple, and a body full of surgical scars due to my breast reconstruction. And I was only 32, so supposedly still on my sexual kind of a peak, right? And my partner never really dared to ask for sex as he was afraid of hurting my surgical sites. And I also kind of felt guilty about being so ill and not being in the sexual mood. So there were times where I'll think, he'll probably still feel horny because he's only 34 years old. And if I don't have sex with him, maybe he might find another prettier woman to fuck. So in spite of feeling like the second cat, I sometimes still make the effort. And then I became the third cat. Sex was really, really painful, just like how the lion's expression. So instead of ooh, ah, it was like, be careful, be careful, ouch. So it was literally like that when we had sex. It was really painful. So it might be due to the reduced estrogen. And I had a very bad case of vagina dryness. So even like how painful, it's like even when peeing, it felt like I was peeing needles, that kind of painful. And so when I went to the cancer support center, support groups, I had to ask about vagina dryness problem. And I was pulled aside by an elderly lady, and she's like, oh, Tricia, we don't discuss about such private issues here. And that really kind of pissed me off because I thought, hey, am I the only one with this problem, vagina dryness problem? And that's also when I started to get interested in to learn more about sex and openly share about my experience so that other cancer patients do not need to suffer in silence. So Dr. Mata has been really good at giving out free talks at Cancer Society, which really helps to educate on how sexual desires actually changes when we're affected by cancer. Oh, I also forgot to add that in between all this cancer treatment, it also doesn't help that we were both very tired parents of a 9-month-old baby, as well as a very hyperactive 4-year-old. And I was also still recovering from the perineal tear during the childbirth. So if anybody came up to me at that time to tell me, oh, embrace the new normal, I would probably give them the first cat's look. Okay, next. Next slide, please. Thank you. And that's a picture of me before my eyebrows and eyelashes drop. I literally look like an egg. So for many chronic illnesses, it can cause problem with sexual function. And these conditions include diabetes, cancer, heart and vascular diseases, arthritis, and autoimmune diseases, just to name some. And sexual dysfunction in couple is one of those least talked about side effects of chronic illnesses. And individuals who are chronically ill often experience emotional distress, as it might disrupt with their routine, maybe their jobs, their social activities, and life just becomes uncertain when you are both feeling at a loss. Your partner might feel overwhelmed with the new role as a caregiver, and you might feel less attractive, less confident, and more concerned about how your body works and adapt to an illness. So just like my partner and I, we were both affected with anxiety and due to the worry of sexual activity or lack of, and the desire as well as the arousal issues. So even during an illness, relationships should not be neglected. Illnesses can make each partner feel vulnerable to fear and loss and to loneliness. You and your partner can learn what is possible as opposed to what was once achievable by enhancing your sexual awareness, communication, and sexual style. So some of the common problems, say cancer, maybe like side effects from the treatment could be hair loss and weight gain. Radiation triggered kind of vagina dryness, erectile dysfunction when you have prostate cancer radiation. Chemotherapy or radiation could also damage the reproductive capability. So the patient or the couple might have to face some fertility issues. Colostomy might be needed after colon cancer surgery. So for diabetes, for men to achieve an erection, there must be significant blood flow to the penis. However, if diabetes damages the blood vessel, which can affect the blood flow to the penis, that will also affect their erection. And type 2 diabetes is also commonly linked to obesity, which have a whole different set of problems. So one of the more important steps that you can take to enjoy sex is actually to look after your diabetes. For kidney diseases, hormones, your nerve, your energy level, medication, and physical changes to your body will all affect your sexuality. And your partner might be afraid of damaging the transplanted kidney. And for heart patients, you know, if for example, you attend the Sugar and Spice Festival and you learn some new technique, you just want to note that try not to do something too sudden, because if they're not used to it, all the different sexual position or the new sexual partner might heighten the what do you call it, the eroticism, and it can cause some cardiovascular demand. So you want to take it easy. So lung issues, the high physical demands of sexual activity can also lead to shortness of breath and hypoxia, which is where the body doesn't get enough oxygen. So sometimes the patient need to use an inhaler before sexual activity, and the couple's use of maybe a less active kind of position could help maintain a satisfactory kind of sex life. They can also benefit from going for physical rehab programs to enhance the muscle tone and the strength. But if you're experiencing emotional issues like anxiety, depression, poor self-esteem, or concerns about your health, then it's a good idea to talk to your doctors or a counselor. Next, please. So after hearing all the doom and gloom, oh, actually you didn't, okay, so that was supposed to be the slide before. That's okay. So after hearing about all the, so next slide, please. After hearing all the gloom and doom, does it mean that it's all game over? No, it's the doctor's job to save your life, but it's your job to save your sex life. So you want to take charge of your sexual well-being. Often it's the fear and the lack of information that prevents the patient with chronic illnesses from resuming their sexual activity. So we want to take time to communicate and to reduce the impact of the illness on intimacy. And that's the key to maintaining the happiness in spite of their health problems. So don't be afraid to ask the person with chronic illness, what is it, like maybe how do I need to adjust? How can I accommodate? What are the positions, right? Maybe what are the time of the day that you feel better? You feel better to do, have sex, you have more energy. So for example, with diabetes, right? You must regard the sex like an exercise. So when the sugar level might drop, and then your session might be too intense, so you want to check your glucose level before sex, as well as maybe have a snack if it's too low. And then you also want to check your blood glucose level after sex. And it's also a good idea to keep some snacks and juice nearby in case you need them. And sometimes you might think that you want to have some wine, right, to get in the mood or to calm your nerve. But you do note that alcohol can make your sugar level drop very quickly. So these are just some of the things that once you know, you just be more careful about it. And if you have arthritis, you can take your pain medicine maybe 30 minutes before the action. You want to support your joints with pillows. Some rolled up towels can help. Perhaps massaging to soothe all the sore muscles and joints. Use that as a foreplay. Sometimes you might need to take a nap because if tiredness is a problem. And how do we know that somebody with a heart problem, right? How do we know that they're ready to get back in action? So normally it's like if they can climb about 2 flights of steps, that's about a good indication that they can handle the demands of sexual activity. So before that, you could have alternative forms of like intimate physical contacts. Well, it could be like say holding hands, hugging, kissing, massages, mutual masturbation, use of vibrator, or just like intimate verbal communication. Like now they have what, sexting and stuff like that. Or you can choose to have a less active sexual position, like maybe a semi-reclining position. The person would be on the bottom, or seated position could help reduce the heart and the lung function, effort, not function. So you might want to learn a new activity together, whether it's taking a class together, going on a trip, trying some new food, or learning new languages. My partner and I, we do a lot of theme months to keep the refreshed perspective. So instead of like focusing only on the cancer, we say, oh, this month we're going to focus on this particular theme. And it also helps generate some intimate interest in one another. And sometimes, no need to think so much about it, just do it. Just sometimes I treat it as a sexercise. I treat my vagina as a muscle that I need to exercise, to stretch it, to maintain it. So we have those kind of session called a wham bam, thank you ma'am. So no foreplay, no nothing, just get into the action. So that could work too sometimes. Okay, next slide. So sex and pregnancy. Another phase in our life that some of us have gone through. When I was pregnant, I felt more like an elephant. However, strangely, I was also quite horny. I don't know about you guys during the second semester of pregnancy. Maybe it's the pregnancy hormones and plus additional blood flow to my vagina. So it makes me feel like, oh, there's a tingling feeling down below, and it can lead to more intense orgasm. And not to mention that many women actually find pregnancy itself very sexually freeing. You might no longer have to worry about birth control. And then there's also this like, something about the curve and those bigger breasts and stuff like that. That's quite a turn on. So, and we also want to load up on sex before the baby arrives. Next. So pregnancy can actually lead to a lot of physical changes to our body. That's why it's important to give yourself a little bit of break, maybe 4 to 6 weeks after delivery before you have sex again. And during your recovery period, your uterus will shrink and hormones will return back to the pre-pregnancy levels. And that's when the muscles will gain strength and stability. So hormones also play a part in the post-delivery recovery. So for some of us who do breastfeeding, the estrogen level might sink below pre-pregnancy level. And with that estrogen, it actually makes our vagina a little bit drier than normal, which can cause some irritation too during sex and sometimes even bleeding. So like I said before, you could have a perineal tear during a vaginal birth, and it could take a longer time to recover. And if that's the case, then you might want to try different positions to reduce that stretch. And if we have it too soon, it might increase the risk of infection. So we'll take a short break and then I want to catch up on some of those chats. Perhaps could my lovely tech support ladies help me read out, because I'm not really seeing any of my, I'm not seeing the chat boxes. Is there any questions?
Yes, there's just one question.
Sorry, so I can't read it. Oh, I just realized I can't read it. Thank you.
All right.
Let me see. Can you talk more about the two BGI? So what's a BGI? Sorry.
It's big, VIG, sorry.
VIG emotions that I mentioned, is it? Oh, like, because we are not, this is actually not only my case. When I talk to patients with cancer, a lot of times, if I speak to the men, they will say that, am I being insensitive to ask for sex when she's going through so much? And they feel bad, but actually in their head, they still have sexual desire. But then they say, I don't know, I feel like I'm so horrible to think about sex at this point. And then when I speak to the woman, they will say, I don't know, I'm afraid that my husband might leave me if they see that, you know, now some of them might have mastectomy, so they have one less, they have no breast. They already feel lousy about themselves, and they say, what if my husband don't love me anymore? How can we have normal sex again? I don't know, because I think a lot of us think that it must be breast. It's so much a part of us being a woman. So just like a man, like for example, like if you imagine your penis being cut off, it will totally take away your sex drive and how you feel about yourself as a man. So for women, it's the same when we're, you know, the breast being removed and things like that. So the guilt of me is not only about whether I can satisfy him, but more that I'm consciously realizing that, yes, he still has sexual desire. I don't have the mood, but let's do the action. Just like how I see it as how when a lot of times we don't feel like going to the gym to exercise, but we still do it for the sake of our physical health. So in this case, my way of thinking is I still do it for the sake of our emotional and mental health. I'm not sure if that answers your question. And especially the men too, like if they have, what I've also understand for men who have gone through prostate radiation, their sex drive and all those things also plummets a lot, and they feel lousy about themselves, and then it also affects how they affects relationship.
No, how many times a week do you go? How many times a week do you have sex like you go to the gym? Right, like do you put yourself on a schedule, right? Like now I go to the gym 3 times a week, right? So it's like I have to go. Like it or don't like it, I go, right?
Duty sex. Martha say duty sex. No, not like that. It also still a lot depends on the mood. However, I would say I do make the effort, but many of the ladies that I've spoken to with breast cancer, they say, no, I don't even want to think about it. My, getting through this whole cancer treatment is more important. But a lot of times this cancer treatment is like a whole full year. And I said, why? We can still have pockets of, it's not the whole full year of suffering. We still have pockets of fun. And I think sometimes it's also something I look forward to, especially when I talk about the theme months and stuff like that. I do enjoy the theme months. And those are things that say, for example, some of the theme month could be just random, maybe it's on Japan, right? And then okay, so we will have like some sushi served naked somehow, that kind of thing. So this will have a little bit of out of our comfort zone, something to look forward to, and as well as not in our routine. So these are some of the things we do. Right? So yeah, keep your questions coming, and I will proceed to the, let me see, next slide. Just a minute, huh? Okay, Liz, could you help me move? So it actually takes a lot of give and take, and my partner has been very patient too. And another side effect of the physical difference, right, is that I would say that even till now, he's still a little bit conscious about my reconstructed breast, because it doesn't look like a natural breast. And I think psychologically he has that barrier about touching it. So what I do is I will literally grab his hand at the beginning part and grab it, and then ask him to massage my very numb reconstructed breast. Our joke is that, hey, do not neglect the adopted sister. And then we'll have a good laugh about it. Even though it doesn't have any sensation at all, But I think it's necessary to see me as a whole package, as a person, and not somebody that has like a deformity or something like that. And I think it also starts with me. And it also helps that we have that communication about different needs. And I like, you know, by you not touching my reconstructed breast, it doesn't make me feel good. It makes me feel like there is some issues with it. So I have to like kind of train him to touch it. So I guess now by default, he's kind of being trained to, okay, I'll press it. That's out of duty maybe, but then it's okay. It's just part and parcel of our way of interacting. And I think it's necessary for my recovery and for me to feel comfortable again and feel good about myself again, with or without a breast. All right, so I'm going to continue to the next slide. Let me see. So perhaps you can move it to the sex and physical challenges. That's a whole new different transitions that unfortunately some people have to go through. It's a common myth that people with disability are not sexual, or they don't have sex at all, no desire. But anyone with a disability is still a person, just like anyone else. They have been given a lot more obstacles and daily life struggles, just like than the average human being. But they're humans, they have wants, they have needs and desire. So some of the physical challenges could be from spinal cord injuries, could be muscular dystrophy, MS, multiple sclerosis, cerebral palsy, stroke, or maybe even visually impaired. So the most important thing to remember is that you're not defined by your disability or your illness. So you are a person who desires and loves like anyone else, and you have every right to. Next slide, please. So some examples of problems that people with physical disability might experience is that, say, MS, the man might experience impotence. They might have numb body parts, bladder problems. Cerebral palsy can cause uncontrollable muscle contraction that can interfere with sex and masturbation. And sometimes the clamming of a woman's vagina muscle could make a penetration very difficult. So physical disability can also make certain sexual position very difficult. And as well, they have problems with arousal and libido and lower libido. And the people with spinal cord injury may have limited or no sexual sensation in their genitals, but they do still feel sexual desires and arousal, because our brain is our biggest sex organ, right? So here, it's not damaged. It could be just a lower physical part. So for body image, a person who acquires a disability later in life, they might feel negative about their body in comparison to, say, like how they were like before. So talking to somebody who has gone through it, who has overcome their body image concerns, it's going to be very helpful. And they can learn over time that they can find pleasurable sensation in other parts of their body, given the right type of stimulation. Just like any transition, we all start with acceptance. And then once we acknowledge our new body, just like how I acknowledge my new body, even though it's 1.5 breasts, it's my new body. So once I acquired that, if you acquire a disability from accident or chronic illness, for example, you want to try to accept that your relationship will be forever changed by your disability, and see whether you can come up with a new normal for both of you. Perhaps even as a caregiver for somebody with physical disability, do understand that they do have sexual desires and give them that space to explore and express their needs. When I'm preparing for this presentation, Google really opened my mind about what's possible in spite of having physical disability. There's an insane amount of materials out there that can support somebody with physical disability. So how to make sexual adaptation, new positions, and some people might find new area like the nipples or the ears that can become more sensitive and enough to be sexually satisfying. Communicate, discuss about your feelings and the concerns is the best way to solve problems together. Well, you want to state your needs clearly not only around intimacy, but every day too. And you want to learn everything you can about your condition, like what is MS, what will MS do, what can we do more about it? Because this is your new life. So with a lot of knowledge, you can also feel more comfortable asking your doctors about some of the side effects. You want to seek help. If the problem is bigger than what you and your partner can handle, go for counseling. Look up for Dr. Martha, right? Sometimes it's helpful to get a different perspective. And it's always good to maintain, be socially connected with your friends so that you have a more positive outlook in your life. And when we talk about stress, right, it could be money issues, it could be like, say, new family responsibilities, new division of chores. Those all can cause a lot of stress. For example, during the COVID time, right, many of us have to work from home. There's potential job losses, juggling the children, the home-based learning, and then suddenly you're at night, you just off the lights, and then you're like, hey, honey, can we have sex? It doesn't work that way. You know, you try to have to address all these issues so that they don't affect your life, and including your desire to be physically intimate. You always have to do something nice to one another every day to build that intimacy and that loving feeling. Next, please. Oh, I guess you missed that slide. Okay, so now we'll talk about sex and aging. We will all get there one day. So sex and aging. Next slide, please. So we'll all get there one day, and this particular fact about orgasm frequency increasing is definitely something I'm looking forward to. And so you will be actually more skilled at communicating your own needs, desires, and boundaries. And when we have more experience, thus we have better understanding what works for me, right? I find it myself, right? My 20-year-old version versus a 45-year-old version is very different. You become much more comfortable with your body in general. That being said, we still can't imagine our parents having sex. So there are plenty of things that nobody actually tell us about how sex is like when we get older and how much the experience can change and evolve. So like sex at any age, there will be highs and lows and moments when you're not just in the mood, and that's perfectly okay. So attitude towards sex changes over the course of a lifetime, and everybody's journey is unique, and you might find that it might take you more time to engage in sex play, with less pressure as you age, and you might find a stronger voice to say what you want or not want. Next slide, please. So it's not just an age issue. It is also a fact that most older adults feel less sexual urgency and energy, especially those with a lot of chronic medical conditions. So this is a good reason to take care of your health right now so that we don't have a lot of those issues to deal with. And some seniors experience depression, fatigue, insomnia, and then background knowledge. So body fats and decrease bone density and reduce muscle mass. It could also be due to the decline in, like for some men, the testosterone. And I remember that when I had cancer treatment, I had a medically induced menopause. So I had the experience of feeling the hot flash, night sweats, insomnia, the sensitive vulva. They are all big sexual turn off. So next slide, and you can hear it from the elderly themselves.
Seniors are having more sex than they've ever had. What's your secret?
A little vodka couldn't hurt. Well, you're not going to get pregnant.
If you do get pregnant, are you worried you're going to have a 30-year-old? What's the best way to get somebody into bed?
What's the best way? You ask too much. I can't answer.
Oh, it's a secret.
Not for me anymore. I did my job, believe me.
Well, I'm not bragging or boasting, but when I was on the bottom, let's see how I get it. When I was on the bottom, I was a Superman. When I was on top, when I was on top, I was a Minuteman. But on top, I was, I'm getting mixed. With me on top, I was Minuteman. With me on top, I was Superman. When I was on the bottom, I was Superman. Minuteman. On top, Minuteman. Well, when I was on the bottom, I was Superman. On top, Minuteman. That was the truth.
What advice would you give to seniors who aren't having sex?
You have to use it, and if you don't use it, you're going to lose it.
And you're using it.
Darn right I am. I just did it today.
You just did it today?
Yes.
And who's the lucky lady?
My wife.
God bless you.
Yeah.
What are some turn-ons?
My turn on? A smile.
I like affection, kissing on the neck, holding hands.
I don't have many turn-offs.
That's what I'm talking about.
I don't like rough. Some people do. It's okay for them, but I like gentle, caring, loving. Even if they don't love me, they should be loving.
So some romance, not just a one-way ticket to Pound Town.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, but I mean, Pound Town is better than nothing.
All right, I hope that one day we can also do an Asian version of a senior citizen interview. I can imagine in the hawker center, and we interview some of the uncle and auntie, ape, ama, in a Singapore context. So I hope you enjoyed it. So what we want to do is to look forward and not back. So many couples want to know how to get back the sexual arousal and the activities that they experience in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. It's totally unrealistic. So instead, we actually want to find ways to optimize our body's response to sexual experience now. So every different season, there is a different reason. There's beauty to be found in every season. So as we age, it's actually normal for you and your partner to have a different sexual abilities and needs. So find new ways to enjoy the intimacy. And you might have intercourse less often than you used to, but the closeness and the love you feel will remain. Even right now, my husband says, hey, you know, it's the quality, not the quantity that counts. When I was asking him, like, hey, are we shortchanging each other? They say, no, quality over quantity. So we want to try also different positions that we want to, that we can both find comfortable and pleasurable. And for a man, for example, if the erectile dysfunction is an issue, then you want to try maybe with the woman on top where hardness is not as important. And for women, using a lubrication could help. And we want to expand what sex actually means. Holding hands, you know, sensual massages, all the different ways of sharing a passionate feeling. Maybe they can try oral sex or masturbation as fulfilling substitute to intercourse. I know, are you having an image of having a blowjob without your dentures? Naughty, naughty. Anyway, so you want to change up some routines, be creative. The time of the day of where you do it, maybe while your wife is preparing breakfast, maybe in the kitchen, since the kids are already grown up, you have the whole house to yourself. Or foreplay, just like an old car, it takes a longer time to warm up the engine. So it might take a longer time for you and your partner to get aroused. So you want to set stage, maybe go for a stroll, an evening of dancing, a romantic dinner, and you want to play, you want to be playful. Just, you know, like they say that when we're older, we become kids again. So let's have more toys, invest in a box of sex toys. So that might help a little bit. And remember that whatever, next slide, please. Remember that whatever transitions that you're going through at the moment is only part of you and not the whole of you. So as we can see from the various life transition described earlier, you notice that something in common. I didn't emphasize so much on the doing part, which is the sex. It's all about the being, which is the intimacy. A true intimacy happens when both people actually feel safe enough to be vulnerable. And there is support for each other's weaknesses, and then we celebrate each other's strength. And we want to practice compassionate problem solving. And intimacy actually grows when people stay emotionally connected, even when there is a problem to solve. And the next slide, please. Oh, remember my cats? How did I become the last purring pussycat? I think I left out that one. Next slide, please. So it's actually the care. The care is always appreciated, care by my husband, and it actually opens up the door for better communication. And he showered a lot of care, kindness, and attention through doing housework, for example, helping with the children, being sensitive. And sex can be a very powerful source of comfort, pleasure, and intimacy. And there's a lot of communication. I will tell him how I feel. This is painful. You can touch here. I don't like that. He tells me about how he feels too. And nobody can be a mind reader. You want to express how you feel and need and communicate your desire to connect. And we're always curious. We want to find out more. You want to learn about different ways of pleasuring, different ways of receiving. So we are always reading up about different things. Like, so the example I gave about the Japan theme month, maybe we could explore into, hey, what do Japanese do when they have sex? Things like that. Google is wonderful. It can open up different worlds for you. So creativity in intimacy, then rewatch all the Sugar and Spice Festival recordings for excellent ideas. So there's a lot of resources out there, and we want to change our attitude and positions. Just like learning anything new, it takes time and practice. So be patient, and I hope that all of you can build up a sexual confidence in yourself first, and your partner, and then have a fulfilling and intimate sex life. So next, these are some of my resources, credit resources. And thank you so much for your attention. Thank you all my tech support. Next slide, and the last slide, please. And those are my contacts. If any one of you want to reach me, you can find me on my website, www.cancercoachingforwomen. And I really appreciate your patience throughout this whole time with all the technical stuff. And okay, I'm ready for more questions. Anyone? Okay, so we'll stop the screen share. And let's get back to me.
No.
Thank you. Okay, questions.
Yeah.
Let me just take a quick look. I'm glad you enjoyed the... Okay, I can see from here. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed the videos. Adopted sister, yes. I mean, like, we have to find ways, right? Everybody says it differently. Adopted sister. I just felt that it was adopted sister because it didn't come from me. It was not part of me as a new member of our family. And so we want to love my adopted sister too. Pound town is better than nothing. Yes, we need to end because Luke, is 8 o'clock. That's what I thought. Okay, it's 8 o'clock. And thank you so much for all your support. And thank you all my friends. I have quite a few friends that attended. Thank you so much for your support. And if you have any further questions, you can ask it in the participation, the Facebook group. I will try to answer them, and we need to log out ASAP. Thank you so much. All right, all the best through your different transitions, and embrace your intimacy. Bye-bye, good night.